Thank you, Mukesh, for putting all of this together, and I'm really thankful to you and the whole team for organizing this. So, before I get into the session, just so little bit about AICJKL. So, we are based into Jaipur, Rajasthan, and we are operational for last almost 2 years now, supported by Niti Aayog. One of the core area on which AICJKL focuses is on the renewable energies and support sustainability solutions by startups into the sector. We have been fairly spread across country. We have startups from almost 13 plus cities across the country, and we have worked with almost 40 plus startups. The whole idea behind Rise came along during one of our discussions with the Head Start team during the previous lockdown due to the COVID, where we all were trying to struggle and help each other however we can. And the whole idea was that COVID has given us a whole new paradigm and the challenges which we all have to solve for. And with all in India, with currently also around 4 lakh plus active cases and more than 4 lakh casualties so far, we still require a robust and resilient healthcare system, which is a vital requirement to control the spread and help everyone save their lives. So even before COVID, on an ordinary day, healthcare centers in remote areas face challenges, a lot of challenges due to locations, limited access to resources, medical supplies, equipments, trained staff, and many other factors which comes with the location and the vicinity they are in. And the coronavirus has shown that many of these centers are left struggling during this period. Almost 66% of the Indian population resides in villages, and many of them need these rural health centers for their day-to-day requirements also. And these healthcare infrastructure and sub-centers are at the core of solving this crisis, and it's really urgent to build strong infrastructure to support them. As of last year in 2019, more than 30% of the sub-centers across 14 states had proper electricity connection, which amounts to more than 40,000 sub-centers for healthcare providers in rural India. We also have another units called primary health centers, which are more equipped with electricity and other services, but still more than 800 such centers in India are still operating without electricity. So this raises a very big question, not just for startup ecosystem, but for many other stakeholders and players, that how we can help in this situation. And because we are talking from the perspective of startups right now, the bigger question is that how the startup ecosystem and investor community look into this, and how this can help us, give us more suggestions and support to startup ecosystem, that what is it which can help this sector, and we can support the rural health center or health infrastructure in rural India. So Zaran, you as an investor, you have spent quite a good time doing investments and evaluating startups. So as an investor, what is it which your fund looks for in startups, and how is it that you determine that a startup is good to onboard as a seed or angel round, or even like basically what are the kind of parameters and the qualities you really look for in a startup?
Sure. Again, first off, kudos to the team for organizing this and putting it together. I was on the previous panel as well, and the quality it's through the roof. So first off, thanks for that, and thanks for the more than charitable introduction that you did. Look, as any fund will tell you, there's a combination of factors of product, market, team. I won't get into any of that. I've got very distinguished colleagues on the panel as well. What I'll just touch upon a little bit is what Anthill looks for in addition to these factors. The whole thesis of Anthill is, can we partner with courageous entrepreneurs early in their growth journey, and then be the value beyond the dollars that we put onto the cap table, which means, can we step in and help this entrepreneur scale with speed? This is done through achieving what we define as a primary milestone. Could mean different things for different people, but given that we have a lot of healthcare people here today, we try and help them in their clinical trials and validation. So a very, very important aspect for our analysis is if they pass a very stringent clinical panel that we put together through our industry partner, Healthcare Global. A large aspect of an Anthill check is, can we actually get them from point A to point B through our ecosystem? And if we can, that's one major toll gate. Of course, the other toll gates apply. Is the team fantastic? Is the founder married to the problem that the founder is solving? Is the market large enough to support venture investment? And I'm sure my distinguished colleagues will touch upon that as well. But the one key difference that we look for is, are you in the verticals that we operate in, which is health, media, consumer, and urban? And additionally, are you in the regions that we operate out of, which is India, Singapore, Israel, and the United States? So when we combine these two factors and we check both those toll gates, that's when, it looks more and more ready for an Anthill.
So, Mr. Das, we would like to know something about the investment thesis and at Agility and being part of Alpha you look after, and also an intro to the overall domain which to help starters to understand who have joined us today, that what is it which it encompasses and how it's built.
So at Agility, we have a fund which is into D2C, though it's not into power or healthcare, but that's into D2C, direct to consumer. And on top of it, our thesis is early stage investments. We prefer early stage investments where we are hand-holding the founder from the very early stage. Many of the founders are just starting up, and most of them don't even know, how to go to market. Forget about, scaling up the business. In India, it's like now today the time is like 1990s of America, where anybody and everybody wants to do a startup without realizing it's really a business you are starting. Startup is not just fundraising game where the youngsters feel like I'm gonna start a startup and raise first round, second round, third round. That doesn't happen. I mean, that's not. It's not that easy. And then definitely, we actually handhold the startup in a way where we not just make them go to market, but also strategize them from where they really need to start. So that's our thesis. But in the fund, we are investing at a little revenue stage startups where they are generating a decent size revenue, not very big. So this is our thesis of investment. So sector agnostic, can invest in any startup, preferring early stage so that we can grow with them from the early stage to the maybe IPO. I don't know, that is also possible now. So Zomato is started the floodgates of listed entity investors, and this is definitely going to be a huge plus for every one of us. So this is our thesis of investment, and this is how we invest.
Anupam, we have seen that during COVID, the disruption which happened and the requirement of various startups completely changed. And many of these startups actually pivoted to a very different models and everything. So what is your take on this? Like how coronavirus has basically created an opportunity, like a river of opportunity for each and every startup, or also some for existing startups and for new startups. So how do you look at, and Bloom Ventures look at that area?
Absolutely. Firstly, Aryan, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks a lot for having us. And it's very well put, Zara and Diano. It was amazing listening to you all. Also, I've spent some time in rural Rajasthan. So for 4 years, I was in Pilani. So it's it's interesting the kind of work you all are doing in Rajasthan. But yeah, getting back to your question, I think, there were a lot of movements towards solving for issues beyond what their core value proposition was. Especially within our portfolio, we've seen some startups, like there are 4 or 5 healthcare startups that we invested in our second fund and in our first fund that try to do different things. And I was also a part of ACT Grants. I don't know if y'all have heard of ACT Grants. It was I'm sure you might have read about it. It was a body that was created to support startups that are solving for COVID, right? So I was a part of that body, and we supported a few startups to that. Even Bloom was a part of that. But I think more than focusing on being opportunistic and targeting those core issues like remote monitoring, so on and so forth, I think there was a very clear desire to create an impact, right? And I think that's the transition that you saw. In fact, a lot of the things that were being solved for CDSCO and ICMR didn't even have the ability to give approvals on that. I'll give you a simple example. There's a company that I worked very closely with when I was volunteering at ACT Grants. It's called Inaxcel. Siraj is a very close friend, the founder. I've done a fabulous job in solving for some of those issues. So they create non-invasive ventilation like CPAP machines and BiPAP machines. When we tried to get a fast approval for that, CDSCO, ICMR did not even have the ability to give an approval, right? So the way I'm thinking of it is, I don't think it's opportunistic. Number one, I think there's a desire to create an impact. But the good thing, the positive thing that's the only positive thing that's happened thanks to COVID is I think people have realized the kind of lacuna that exists in this country with respect to healthcare, right? I think if you think about the out-of-pocket spends of our country is close to 70%, which is pure out-of-pocket. I think Dianu was also trying to make that same point. And when you have that kind of out-of-pocket spends, you need indigenous solutions that are solving for India-related problems. To give a simple example, Inaxcel has a neonatal CPAP device that operates hand crank. So now, Aryan, in the beginning you mentioned that some of our primary healthcare centers do not have power, do not have electricity. And so a lot of interesting innovations are coming from India, solving for India. The transition that has happened is, before this, most of the startups that I used to meet, and I've worked in the healthcare sector, both on the deep tech side and on the pharmaceutical and distribution side. Most of the startups that I used to meet, even prior to Bloom, that was solving for healthcare, they were capturing the India one kind of a segment, or if it's a medical device, they were trying to build from India for the globe, right? I started my career right after Pilani designing medical devices. So that was our target market, build from India for the globe. There's a predicate device, do a 505(b)(2) and just launch over there, right? I think now there's a clear transition where entrepreneurs are building from India for India. And because there's a market now, CDSCO, ICMR will be doing more approvals. They have the ability to approve much more. Thanks to COVID, we realized that. In addition, I think there's going to be more focus on the patient side on preemptive care. We're going to see a few plays over there, according to me. And I think from our focus, if I think about it, anything that is bringing the healthcare burden down, either through cost reduction, like Dianu put it, the surgery. We are also investors in Medfin. Dianu must have heard of them. So essentially, anything that brings costs down and reduces the burden on the patient is something that is super interesting for us. Or anything that drives efficiency in the supply chain or the value chain would be super interesting for us. Anything that improves the efficacy of any sort of treatment. That's why we invested in Vito, and that would be super interesting for us. So yeah, broadly speaking, I think that there's going to be a marked shift on what products are being built for whom. The preemptive care is going to play a major role, as well as bringing in more efficiencies in your value chain to bring down costs is going to happen, as well as building from India for India. You will see more medtech companies come out of India, is my sense, because primary healthcare centers cannot cater to the kind of demand that's there. So you would need medical devices that are solving for India-related problems. Like without electricity, how can you give CPAP? Without electricity, how can you give some sort of resuscitation devices, right? So a lot of this is going to happen.
Whenever there is a product or solution built around these solutions, they also need to consider the local situations and the geographical situations and all. Whenever we talk about the health sector based startups or energy sector startups, also there's a very big constraint of the geography which comes in. that one solution which might work in Rajasthan may not be applicable in, let's say, Andhra or Jammu or some other places, and vice versa. So how, when you are evaluating a startup which has a potential to go kind of, let's say, national presence and all, how does the geographical understanding plays a role? And have you seen in your portfolio or in the ecosystem startups doing that very well, in at least the product based or the startup based in these sectors, health and energy?
Right. So I think fundamentally the core product doesn't change, right? The approach changes for most of them, right? How do you sort of deliver might change for a lot of them as they go in different geographies, but the core offering may not change, right? And what you need to do is adapt accordingly and understand what kind of a business model works in what geography, because what worked in, say, a Rajasthan may not work in, let's say, an Andhra Pradesh. That is right, as completely as you mentioned. And somewhere the core product fundamentally can still be the same, right? Your delivery mechanism might sort of change by a tad bit in terms of how you approach this in a Rajasthan, and tad bit in how you approach this in Andhra Pradesh. Because let's say, for example, Karma was expanding and they've expanded into other markets. They had to change a bit of here and there because fundamentally, for example, in Rajasthan, there was a very big gap of medicine and diagnostic availability itself. So they had to provide that as a complete package. But in the case of Andhra Pradesh, that facility of pharmacy is anywhere there. So what you can do is to append on top of that rather than sort of create an alternate channel is the way to go about it, right? And you have to be smart enough to be able to go into those markets, go on the ground, understand those nuances, because that's very, very important. And I think for us, whenever we invest as well, and before even we make an investment decision, I think we actually go on the ground to understand the core, right? We speak to hundreds of people, understanding where exactly the problem is, why is there a problem, identify those patterns, and then make our decisions, right? So if we do that effort, we expect the founders to be able to actually do double efforts to be able to understand what's changing in those markets, what's the drivers in those markets that'll be moving your product adoption versus someone else who sort of start coming there, right? And those nuances become the key eventually to be a sustainable business at the end of the day as well, right? Because at the end of the day, you might be able to create a scalable business, but your economics need to work, right? There is no brainer that the economics cannot work and you keep scaling. I think your economics at the fundamentals should work, and that's when you start seeing value propositions get played out with scalability.
I think first of all, I would like to thank all the panelists over here, Dhyanu, Zaran, Anirban, and Shreyansh. It was amazing to have you. I think this was one of those wonderful sessions which was very, very candid, very open. And I think, while we were discussing about the rural healthcare and, especially the points around the investment, the honesty that we had in terms of, the funds and where they're coming from, and also, love the point that Frank also brought about the ecosystem being developed, right? I think so we have been working very closely with Niti Aayog, AIM, and the AICs, and we truly believe that the incubator and accelerators, especially with the amount of boost of entrepreneurs that we are getting from tier 2, tier 3, right? There are problems that the folks in these cities are able to see much more closely, right? And when they face these challenges, they are much more enthusiastic or more motivated to solve that. We talk about, the marriage to the problem. We see those guys really having that, and they're having that grit to be able to get there. But one of the bigger challenges for them is always that network to be able to reach out and, have that trust that they can do it. And I think the incubators that we see around the country, they are that basis. They are that platform which is, helping trust, building that resources, giving them the initial seed money so they can actually go and start working on bringing that solution, right? It doesn't have to be the perfect one, but it has to be that start. And I think, from that point onwards, getting them to you guys, ensuring that, when they have at least proven their team as a successful factor over there, they've proven their vision, they've proven their, the space that they want to work in, we have that rocket fuel ready to help them boost that up. And I think, also really understanding different forms of investment. I think that's also very important for us as we at Arihant work together in terms of working with these startups and giving them the platform. How do we ensure that understanding from you guys what really matters, and
that same filter that we are also able to apply, because we also understand that, while the incubator and accelerators are doing the platform, the growth comes through the extra funds that we get through you guys, right? So your lens is very much important to us to be able to filter in and also educate our startups who don't have that experience, because this experience, when we're in Bangalore, Bombay ecosystem and Delhi, it's very easy, it's very common, right? You go to founders, they're talking to founders who have raised funds, who have, have had that experience, and they're learning through that. But that challenge, when we see it in tier 2, tier 3, that becomes a very big point over there. So I think, thank you so much, all of you guys, for coming in and sharing that open feedback to all of us over here. Special thanks to Arihant, JKLU and UPES for actually starting this entire forum itself and this engagement. We really look forward. We believe that rural India is a big opportunity. It's a big problem itself, right? And we want to really identify some young entrepreneurs who are working in that space to come in, get this support through these platforms, and love to see those ventures being then supported by all of you guys in the future itself.